most of us put efforts to achieve our aspirations. Most of us want to succeed, but then life deals us with hard knocks. It doesn't make us a failure, but then it opens up our minds. It makes us put more efforts to learn from it and to succeed. This has been happening over the 10,000, 20,000 years of our forefathers, and our rishis had put in efforts in a more systematic way. They called it a tradition, right? And in that tradition, it's very, very important to understand that as part of the sadhana, the tapasya, transformation within happens, right? And it's very important to see what neurosciences have to say in this regard. The biggest challenge that the contemporary youth face is one of not having the world that they want. And the most interesting reaction that they have to it is to become angry. I'm sure all of you, many of you youngsters would have been angry every now and then, right? So, why do we become angry? Of course, being in the management association, like Swami Priyananji Maharaj was saying yesterday, we have anger management. But then, let's go one step deeper, right? Now, in this context, I'd like to invite Professor R. Lakshminarasimhan, Director of Neurology, Department of Neurology in the Madras Medical College, and a very eminent sadhaka in himself, who has understood what's across the divide, the outer knowledge of neurology and the inner transformation that one has to do to be able to comprehend that. Yesterday I had a conversation with him when he says, every day I face death. I see death in my hands. Every day I struggle to retrieve people from death. And invariably I submit to death, Yama, Lord Yama. But with a more sober, more wise way of going about it. Right? Now, I'd like to request Professor R. Lakshminarasimhan to help us understand what it means in enabling youth manage aggression and anger, more so when it all starts with fear, a certain panic, a certain possibly epileptic reasons or possibly schizophrenic reasons. We don't know, right? With this brief introduction, I'd like to request Professor Lakshminarasimhan to come here.
Namaste. As you all know, the emotions color our life. I'm just going to take you to the neural controls of emotion and how we can tackle it. And if you really look at the basic emotions are 6 as per our neurosciences, this Paul Ekman's classification. The happiness, sadness, anger, fear, disgust, surprise, or a combination of them. What is interesting is each emotion has in a low energy state and a high energy state in our brain. For example, happiness is low energy and ecstasy is high energy. Same is with sadness and melancholy, anger and rage, fear and panic, disgust and hate, so on. So, it's either in the low energy or in the high energy. I don't see there is no fine tuning between them, and then it's either shifts either anger or goes to rage. So as you all know, The primary functions of the brain are the cognition, conation, and the affect. The affect is nothing but the motor expression of emotion. All of us express our emotions through about 40 to 45 muscles on the face. You will see how emotion is being expressed. The emotions which you feel by the various afferent inputs from the environment are perceived by the brain, translated into a motor action in the face. This example for a smile. You see a happy scene and you smile at it, or a child you want to smile. The smile is a signature of each individual. Each person has a unique smile. Starting from the days of Mona Lisa, everybody has a unique smile. Each one's smile has certain group of muscles in the face acting in a certain limit to induce a smile. Neurologically, there are two types of smile. One is called a Duchenne smile, which is a genuine smile, and a Pan-Am smile, which most of your the people who compare the various things, they keep on smiling. They would have had all air hostess or whatever, about 100 smiles, 1,000 smiles a day. They're not true smiles. The scientific studies shows that even the muscles in a Duchenne smile, which is a true smile, the muscles around the eye also smiles with you. Whereas in a false smile, it doesn't happen. The muscles which act on the face is different for a true involved smile and an artificial smile. So, affect being a motor expression, let us start the day in smile, and the affective component is faster in every scenario, and the cognitive component is slower because obviously there are a lot of calculations when you cognitively decide something, whereas emotionally you react immediately. The more and more training, you can delay the affective component and make the cognitive component faster. And even if you look at the distance, the component which is decides the cognition, which is essentially the frontal lobe, which is involved in and it is slightly higher up, and the amygdala, which is the seat of the emotional limbic brain, an almond-sized structure which really produces all sorts of commotions in life. And you see, as we evolve, the frontal lobe, which is involved, keeps on evolutionarily bigger and bigger, better cognitive component evolutionarily. And there are two things which happen. Is one, there is the top down, the frontal brain tries to put brakes on the emotional brain. The emotional brain receives inputs from various sources, eyes, ears, touch, everything gives lot of inputs to the emotional brain. They compute and wants to react, and the brakes are coming from up, and the information of the environment is going down. So there is a bottom-up drive to the emotions, and there is a top-up brakes which happen. So the frontal brain has three important portions, which the medial frontal, which is the reward circuits and the visceral emotions. All of you know that our organ, every viscera has emotions. If you don't express your emotions, sometimes your gastrointestinal system starts weeping. You don't shed your tears, and so the visceral emotions are there in the medial frontal lobe, and the orbitofrontal lobe, which is in the base of the brain, has the emotional regulation and impulse control. And the outer aspect, the dorsolateral prefrontal brain, has task setting and monitoring is on the right side, setting in the left side of the brain. And the pole is responsible for multitasking, which the younger generation is very much capable of. They will handle 1, 2, 3, each finger has one thing, you're typing all some at the same time, some other inputs from the brain. So multitasking is the frontal fold, the Brodmann's area 10. I'll just take a couple of examples of fearful brain. The fearful brain. Fear, without fear nobody can exist. Fear always leads to some degree of anxiety. I don't know, some amount of anxiety is always beneficial unless it becomes pathological anxiety, where it reduces your functional capabilities. Always felt even amoeba moves away from a noxious stimuli. From amoeba to every organism may not be, I don't know, amoeba is not cognitively capable of observing fear, but it moves out from a noxious stimuli. But similarly, every one of us have the noxious stimuli and the fear circuitry. All these emotions are interplay of chemicals. The trivectorial concepts of the monoamines, the three major amines which are norepinephrine, serotonin and dopamine in different axes, one more, the other two less, or one less, two more, all these three interplay of these chemicals, they decide what emotion it is. And these major monoamines also have troops under them, 4 or 5 troops. They always accompany, which are minor players in the emotional field, which are neuropeptides. Each neuropeptide has a function. For example, orexin, or neuropeptide on appetite, galamine on this thing. Every one neuropeptide has an action on one of the viscera. One increases the heart rate during fear, another produces a sense of micturition or going to the toilet in a fearful situation. So each monoamine has an army of neuropeptides accompanying them, and interplay of this leads to emotions. And if you look at this, and whenever the activation of the insular cortex, where most of initially the autonomic nervous system was thought to be autonomic because they thought it was not under the control of the brain, but now they understood that there is nothing autonomic about it. It is also under the control of the cortex, which is the highest part of the brain, and this insular, which is kept deeply embedded with a lid on it called the opercula. This particular part of the cortex controls the visceral autonomic changes, the vital things like breathing, heart rate, the various visceral functions. So, the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex and GABA. So, whenever you have a fear, it's always there is some anxiety develops in you. The one situational anxiety, I can think of Arjuna in the field of standing here. He says to Lord Krishna that I'm seeing all of them and my hands are trembling, which is a manifestation of anxiety. And Lord Krishna says, don't worry, you have to face the reality. Face the reality. Don't be afraid of it, you face it. And directs Arjuna to do what is required to be done on a war field. In other words, directed him towards Karma Yoga. People, Swamijis will know better than me. I am not an student, but what I just wanted to say is the situational anxiety. Everyone exam, you face an anxiety. Just before the exam or just before any important event, you have an anxiety, a little bit of anxiety, which always helps you. But what is important is, now people are not, instead of facing reality, they are getting deeply lost in the virtual world, which is a disturbing thought. Then when that happens, the anxiety becomes pathological and results in various types of anxiety disorders, which each anxiety disorder, like generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, separation anxiety disorder, post-traumatic anxiety disorder, there are about 8 to 9 types of anxiety disorder. Each involves in different circuitries, and each bottom line, the message I want you to take away is it's all interplay of chemicals. And I'll show you one video which is the same circuits which can produce a fear. Can I have the audios on? Basically, emotions are controlled by the various chemicals, and our ancestors knew how to control these emotions. As far as first I talked about the fear and the anxiety, as far as the anger, and the anger, you have a response to two types of frustrations where you expect something doesn't happen in your way, you become angry. Or second time when you become angry is you are pushed to a place like a chasing tiger, you keep running, the flight response and place reach where you can't run any further. It's become close and you got to be aggressive, and that's reactive aggression. So the two situations, and one is frustration when things don't go in your way, or when you're pushed to the maximum and you have to react, no other choice, and that produces reactional aggression. And the anger circuitry also revolves around the amygdala with the different chemicals. So here also I just showing you, depicting you the ventrolateral cortex and the anger circuits with reduction in the GABA and increase in the glutamate, and that results in, and again accompanied by the various neuropeptides acting on the hypothalamus as well as on various hormonal and autonomic changes accompanying the emotions. Every time you become angry, every part of your system gets damaged. You remember that. You lose the functional capacity of every system is stressed, starting from the heart, the GIT, the kidney, everything. Because the connections of your emotions to the various parts of the body is very much. So they also, sometimes you don't know the defensive behavior. Some circuit also take you to the periaqueductal gray in the midbrain, which pushes you towards defensive behavior. So what is important is, I was thinking that the cannabinoid receptors are present in the brain, when richly present in the limbic system. I was wondering, unless we have the capacity to produce cannabis on our own self, why should God bless us with these receptors in the emotional brain? This endocannabinoid system, which is richly present in the limbic brain, is the answer, in my opinion, is going to be the answer for controlling the emotions. And all our ancestral people, one of our saints said, each emotion is a chemical. And he said, Anandam has a chemical, Virodham has a chemical. And the Nobel laureate who found out this Anandamide, which is again a cannabinol compound, named it after the Indian saint as Anandamide and Virodhamin. These are the compounds which are in the endocannabinoid system, which produces the change of the neurotransmitter composition, reducing anxiety and reducing depression. And this endogenous cannabinoid are increased by the way ancient practices like meditation. There are scientific proofs for all that. So they knew it and we are forgetting it. And increased levels of anandamide are associated with reduced anxiety and easy forgetfulness of unpleasant experiences. So these are the various endogenous cannabinoid compounds in the body, in the brain, in the limbic brain, with cannabinoid receptor 1, cannabinoid receptor 2, modulation of these receptors with various endogenous cannabinoids were responsible for various emotions, Either you control the emotion or you express the emotion. It is the modulation of these two chemicals. So even in diseases like schizophrenia and epilepsy, or this, they have a protective mechanism where the increased cannabinoid 1 receptors was found in the brain and increased levels of anandamide was found in the blood. And yoga, meditation, and ancient Vedic practices were able to modulate the endocannabinoid system, the ECS, which was responsible for the calmness which all our rishis possessed, the control of emotions every one of us had, and this increase in anandamide endogenously and produced above beneficial effect. This is my message 1. My key message 1, the various practices like meditation and all our ancient Vedic practices enhances the endocannabinol system, modulate the emotions, leads you to a better living. This is my message number 1. Second proof for this is, you know that alpha waves, beta waves, gamma waves and delta waves are the waves which is recorded in the EEG. And the gamma waves are the most powerful ones. All of us get gamma waves when we are to solve a problem with a vexed question. You get a burst of gamma waves and you solve the problem for half a second, and it's the most strongest wave in the EEG spectrum. Research in Olympic level mediators, which more than 64,000 hours of meditation, they didn't have burst of gamma waves. They had gamma waves running across all throughout their recordings. It's a state of gamma wave, which is the most powerful wave of cognition. And this brain shows that gamma all the time. It is not even a blink of seven, it's a state of mind. And that up to, they have done people who have meditated from Indian yogic people who have meditated more than 62,000 hours in their thing, and then demonstrated this, that the results were astounding. When they were doing meditation, the gamma waves again gets augmented by 600 to 700 to 800%. Then you can imagine what would be the power of cognition when you practice all this. So, the third point which I wanted to say is, Sir Mohan Sir has already talked, is the technological disconnect. Whenever we go to a public place or wherever we were greeting each other and inquiring about what are you, what's all this. This connect is gone. Now you go to a train, everybody switches on with a gadget, and there is a technology barrier which has come between the humans. The interactions is only through the technology. It has got, I'm not against, don't think that I'm against technology. I embrace technology. Technology has a lot of applications, but it should not, we should not forget that it should not interfere our human relationships. What is happening is the status anxiety in the social media, highlighting the best moments of your life, start comparing even beyond. You may, I don't know whether, if you have a 1 lakh friends on the media, what does it make sense? You can't handle, you don't even know who you are. But unfortunately, we are all measured by this social currency of how many likes you had, how many, all these social currencies, and somebody is making a digital currency out of it. And the self-worth is now being valued against social currency. We are becoming what others like about us. And most unfortunately, we are outsourcing our emotion, outsourcing our memory, outsourcing our intelligence. You know, the time we don't even try to remember anything, and everything everything we depend upon and the fear of missing out. If all your colleagues are there, if you are not there, you're out of the group. And losing our memory. We have outsourced our brains to Google Peter Shaw. More dependent we become on search engines. We sleepwalk in an age of bewilderment. I thought the magic of information age was allowed us to know more, but then I realized the magic of information age, it allows us not to learn less. And we have lost time to introspect our own selves. And I have never understood when this I getting into you. I was always watching all. Up to 4 months of age, the child, you give an object to the child, doesn't object, you take it out, it doesn't bother. But 5 to 6 months of age, you give some toy, and you want it'll grab again, it'll start grabbing. Probably that's the time when the I enters and doesn't leave until your last breath. The I into your thing and your possessiveness about, I don't know when, and probably the science would answer, or Swamijis would be able to. And the two facts that what keeps the consciousness of us and all these things are unanswered, very philosophically highly difficult questions to answer. And the more we use the web, the more what happens is, in days when we are young, we were used calm, focused, undistracted, linear mind, which is now pushed away by a new kind of mind that needs to dig out information, fragmented, disjointed, overlapping bursts of information from all these things and scattered. So, to rephrase David Brooks, I will be everywhere, around in the dark. Wherever there is a network, I will be there. Wherever there is an Amazon making a product of recommendation based on past preferences, I will be there. Wherever there is a Facebook news feed selecting articles based on the most email list, I will be there. I will be in the way WhatsApp links to one another. And when memes are spreading and humiliation YouTube videos are shared in Twitter, I will be there. And I am one, and I am with the external mind. Don't allow the gadgets you don't be a slave to the gadgets, you be a master of the gadgets. Om. To conclude, ancient Indic Vedic practices enhances the endocannabinoid system, which will alleviate anxiety. Take control of the technology, not be a slave to it. Dedicate time for introspection. The humanness is getting lost. And that is the most important thing which divides us from the machines. Don't lose it. And meditation increases the most powerful waves, the gamma waves. And wish you a very, very happy day. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Lakshminarasimhan.